what's going on at Hawthorn as far as the CEO. She jumped on her sword today, the other day.
Kennett's back.
And Kennett's back as well.
The curse.
How did that happen?
The CEO's gone, the president resigns, and Jeff Kennett's back in there again. So
apparently they had to consult lawyers to get him in because Kennett actually put things in place to say that he wouldn't be allowed to come back, but because it's not...
Who even thinks of that?
Because it's not consecutive terms.
Well, he's not... He's
found a loophole and he's back.
Well, he's back.
He found a loophole in his own contract.
Yes. He's only doing it for 2
bylaws.
years. He's only doing it for 2 years, not 5. But it's... So I'm just sort of thinking, is this all in the same thing? Is Luke Hodge and all of these other people leaving the once vaunted... the family club as they bring themselves up to be, Hawthorn, is all of a sudden it's imploding and now they're all lining up at family support. For the,
Clarko's on his way to Brisbane, so Gold Coast. Clarko's the coach of Gold Coast.
So how do you see this move, though, from Brisbane? Is it a good move for Brisbane to get Hodge in there as a sort of leadership, mentoring type role? Is it going to help?
They're going to need someone. They're losing players hand over fist. Well, they have in the past, high profile
they're losing
guys
Rockcliffe
that have gone. Now. Yeah, Rockcliffe's gone, so they've lost their captain and a few other guys. So it's going to be a structure. It's going to be we need to get Hawthorn into Brisbane, and it's not going to start with
And Fagan's
drafting people in, if you know what I mean. They're starting to try and change the structure, the orientation, the things in the background, and hopefully that's going to lead to a long-term keeping to be able to retain players. So, and hopefully, you know, they'll be able to retain players because they actually bought. I'm trying to think of his name, Richard Champion. I think they bought him back because during the 2000s period, they retained a lot of their rookies because a lot of them went and lived at his house. He had like 3 or 4 of their rookie listed players living with him, and they ended up being lifelong Brisbane players. And then he left, and then basically everything went south after that. So they've recognised that you can recruit the best players in the world, but if you haven't got the infrastructure and the support mechanisms in behind those people, it can fall over very, very quickly. So I think that getting that Hodge in there is going to be their first. And as you said before about the other bloke from Hawthorn, Fagan in there as well, to get him in there as well. That's basically we're building the club from the base up again. So.
No worries. Well, if you've got an opinion on either of those topics, feel free to hit us up at the Sheds 885 on Twitter or on Facebook. We'll be back in a moment. We're going to wrap up with the AFL NRL Grand Finals. We've got the Warriors JLT series, and we're going to have a quick discussion about the Wildcats and the Socceroos.
You're tuned in to 88.5 FM, where the Valley comes alive.
Hi, I'm Davey Seville, coming soon to 88.5 FM. Why not join me for Blues in the Valley for 2 hours of blues every Monday, 5 till 7 p.m, right here on your local station, 88.5 FM, where the Valley really does come alive.
This is In the Sheds with Albie, Brucey and Donny on VCA 885 FM, where the Valley comes alive.
Yep, that's it. You're back. You're in the Sheds with Albie, Brucey and Donny, and you can get us on Twitter at the Sheds 885 or on Facebook, and we are on VCA 885 where the Valley comes alive. Now, we're going to do something different. We'll start with the NRL Grand Final because I know we normally start with AFL, but we'll start with NRL. My beloved Melbourne Storm, they they got up.
They got Cowboys fan since March.
Yeah, no, I was. Yeah, it was. I'll tell you what. I was watching it, and the first 20 minutes was a good game. It was nice and close.
Close.
0-0. But you could just tell. You're just like the Cowboys they are just barely holding on. Injury in the first play. Game-ending injury in the first season injury.
If anyone hasn't seen that photo,
that was nasty.
You probably don't want to see it. It's ugly, but. The leg's not meant to bend that way.
No. You've got to feel for that bloke. He's probably gone out there with the world's...
Well, I mean, he's a player that's been around. Like, he's an ex-Canberra Raider. He's probably been around for about a decade, never played in a grand final. Only last 3 minutes. He's got a 3
minute.
They come straight out with a morphine, jabbing him, and
Yeah.
He's got a
Trying to take
3-minute
away the
highlight
pain.
reel.
It was, you could just tell, just watching. I mean, the Cowboys were getting the penalties. They were getting a fair bit of a rub, really. I thought they were quite lucky with a few calls. And they just couldn't convert. And then, sure enough, the Storm did what the Storm does, and they absolutely punished them.
Yeah, the Storm, they're a machine. I was just sort of watching the game. Okay, it doesn't matter what the Cowboys do, because Melbourne just were not making any mistakes. They just roll through, and they
just got more and more confident as it went on, and they were just being a little bit shaky towards the end with some of their passes. But where in the first half they were kind of trying to retain the ball when they're getting tackled, where towards the end they were just, as soon as they saw bracing, they braced for the tackle, but they were also passing it off, and I don't think the Cowboys were prepared for that. They're thinking, we're just going to tackle this guy. So you've got three of them going for the tackle. All of a sudden, like Billy Slater or one of them's got the ball, and then he's passed it off to another one and braced for tackle, and it's just, there's about 5-6 passes in a play, and for the first half, it was probably maximum you'd see was about 2 or 3 passes, where they were just getting quite loose with it, but they were hitting the targets, and that was the difference as well.
I think it was through the halfway, through the second quarter, I think they flashed up. There was nearly 8 or 9 to 0 offloads to the Storm. Just basically, Cowboys. Just as soon as they got tackled, that was it. That's where it stopped. There was
and defensively, they were just every bit as impressive. I mean, there was only one forward in the Cowboys made over 100 metres, and that was Jason Taumalolo, who has been averaging over 200 metres per game.
Yeah, so that's
all
a good
season,
stop
and
right
they
there.
kept him to 101 metres, so basically halved his normal output, just because they were getting up off the line so quick, getting up in their face, and they just had no time to think. Michael Morgan, who's done such a wonderful job for the Cowboys in Jonathan Thurston's absence, was completely nullified.
Yeah, I had him for first try as well, so I wasn't too happy with his effort, to be honest. He cost me a $10 bet, so I'll be coming to see you, Michael. We've got to talk.
There was lots of pressure put on his kicking game as well, and that caused a lot of balls to go down Billy Slater's throat.
Even the kicks after the 5 tackles and they have to kick, even those kicks were under pressure.
Yeah,
like completely under pressure. They just had no time to do it. Where the Storm, there was a few plays where they got, you felt like the Cowboys were going to lift, like especially in that first half where they've come straight back in. They really lifted, but then again, it was just, you could just feel it was just them holding on, and the end was the result was inevitable.
Yeah.
On to the AFL, and that was pretty much the same. It was a really, really good first quarter and a half. And then that was
you can feel that one as well through the back half of that second quarter.
Yeah. So
I think you've got a new thing in the AFL that'll come out now going forward, and that'll be pressure acts.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one thing we probably, from my limited viewing of the game, was that Richmond were absolutely relentless in their ability to just put pressure on the ball carrier, whether it be in their forward 50, their back 50, through the middle of the field. It didn't matter. They would just, everybody smother, tackle, even if they were hand passing, it didn't matter. There was a pressure act. Everybody was just all on the same page, and unfortunately for Adelaide, they just didn't have anything. They didn't change anything. We had a quick look at if you went through the Richmond team, who had a game, who had a crack versus the Adelaide side. I think I came up with about 12 guys from Adelaide who just didn't give anything. So from Adelaide's point of view, I think they'll look back on that game and think, we've waited to the last game of the year to play our worst game. It was their lowest scoring game as well.
Yeah, and Cornsey was talking about that today as well, saying, he goes, it's our worst game of the season, and it just happened to be in the grand final. I was a bit surprised that, I know Martin had a really good game, but I was a bit surprised that Basher Hooley got the perfect score from the coach for the coaches medal. He got the perfect score. He got the 10. I thought he set the tone in the first quarter, and he maintained it. I would have put Dusty around second, then Rance and Vlosten to finish off, and then Cochin, obviously.
I totally agree. I thought Basher Hooley was my pick. But at the end of the day, you look at look at the ball getters, and Dusty was the number one the number one for the Tigers.
This is my little bit of research I have done, and I do want to ask the question afterwards, because this is basically comes down to your Norm Smith. Me personally, from what I've seen, I had Hooley first, like you boys. And Edwards was another one in there as well. Now, Edwards had the most inside 50s, I believe. So he had the most clearances, and he also had the most score involvements. So for the game,
that's a really good effort,
and that's pretty well huge. So, and the only reason I want to ask the other, I'll back in that those sort of two, and that is, would the Tigers have won without Hooley?
Oh.
Yes or no? It's a pretty yes or no question.
No,
I said I
so.
reckon they probably would. Would they have won without Dusty? I don't know.
Nah, probably not actually.
So that's
yeah.
And
I think they win without either of them. I think they were the much better team on the day. I think there's more than just one player.
It's a hypothetical and stuff like that. So that was the only reason I'm with these guys. I thought from what I've seen, Hooley was definitely the guy who was probably the most influential. But there's just one last little bit of interesting one I just caught on the web, is that apparently Jimmy Bartell was asked by the AFL to
I heard this as well, yeah,
to vote on the. Have you heard this one, Donnie?
No, I haven't.
No. They asked him to vote on the
Norm Smith,
on the Norm Smith, but because he had a bit of a multi-bet going, it involved three horses and a certain Nick Vlostone winning the Norm Smith, and it came to basically before the game, and he's sort of going, my horses have gotten up, so I've sort of got Vlostone as my Norm Smith, so if he gets up, I don't want to be
a conflict of interest.
A bit of a conflict of interest. So
good on Jimmy for
he stepped down.
He stepped down. Good on him. Now the Warriors in the JLT series. So far we're 2-0. We've beaten Victoria. We've beaten New South Wales. So got to be happy with that. But on top of that, New South Wales and Victoria have demolished Tasmania. So that's going to be an interesting game. When
that says more about Tasmania than.
Well, I'm thinking when we come up against them, it's going to be an interesting game. Victoria won today by about 100 odd runs. It wasn't.
Cameron White made 1,000, didn't he?
Yeah, I was close
160 of 130 or something.
And Sean Marsh, 2 best on ground so far for his batting effort.
Carried his bat against New South Wales was phenomenal. That was a great game, the one against New South Wales. WA were gone. They were done and dusted in that
I thought
game.
we were finished.
And then, what was it, 5 for 30 or something, or 6 for 30?
Just basically imploded. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just took them apart. Great bowling display from Jason Berendorf, I suppose, in the main.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been good for the Scorchers, and he's definitely it's good to have him back because he was injured a lot of last season, so good to have him back.
Dorf.
Yeah.
We should have Coulter Nile and Stoinis coming back into the team for the back half of this one-day tournament. So we've got to give this one-day tournament a pretty good shake. Even though I don't know whether too many people.
But we're sitting top of the ladder at the moment and looking pretty good. But one team that's been looking pretty good for the last 30 years is the Wildcats, and their season kicks off this week. I think we were talking about it briefly before, but is there a team in WA that's had more success than the Wildcats? And I can't think of one. Not in the professional level anyway.
Not in the National League. There wouldn't be anyone to go close.
And the Dockers won a few derbies, but I think you still have to put the Wildcats up there.
Yeah, taking on the Brisbane Bullets at the Perth Arena, so they've got a home game to start the year.
Get down to it because they're fantastic days as well.
Great show. I don't know if you guys have ever been down to Perth.
I've been to a fair few of the Wildcats games, and I was never a big basketball fan as a kid, but I'll tell you what, just going there, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Got me right into it. Definitely a lot better than watching it at home. It's one of those sports where I think you definitely enjoy it more being there.
We've got a few of the guys back as well, so probably the only one we're missing out is Casey Prather has gone off to.
Yeah, but the other bloke they brought in has gone well during the trials as well.
Yeah, so from a team point of view, I think we've,
Yeah, and just lastly, the Socceroos, they've got their World Cup qualifier against Malaysia.
Well, I actually saw a
It's against.
A little
Sorry,
sneaky.
in Malaysia.
It's in Malaysia. Yeah.
Sorry, in Malaysia.
Well, they've got one in Malaysia. It's the first league.